Good evening. It's Wednesday today. I was so tired yesterday and I've got a migraine today, so I'm really on a roll this week. But I wanted to show you how I was doing with my Flanders piece. So I finished the second triangle yesterday. I made new and interesting faux pas. I'm now on the third one. I can honestly say I don't hate Flanders. I really don't hate the style. I don't per se hate any of it. Unlike Pico's, don't hate it. But we've talked about this a bit on the stream recently, which is effort versus reward. And because this takes twice as many bobbins, it takes twice as much effort to achieve not a lot more. And in my mind, the additional faff of how they do the edges of the cloth stitch around the gimp, so the way they change the bobbins in and out from the cloth stitch, and the fact that if a piece enters here, it comes down and goes out again in a kind of circle, and so it lends to a uneven cloth stitch. It especially here at the edge where you go in, they come in and then they go out. So for example, this one here, this second one in, will have gone in and come out again. Well, where's the point in that, right? I'm just kind of wondering why there's two lots of pins there. I'm not sure there was supposed to be two lots of pins there. Oh, whatever. Because there's only one lot of pins here, and that would be what I would expect. So, because there is only one layer of pins. So, this layer of pins, I think, was a whole fabrication of my mind. But it is just this whole extra layer of... I've got a feeling that this layer of pins was supposed to come out. Anyway, whatevs, right? Looking back here, that's probably what was supposed to happen, and I completely forgot about it. I really love the bobbins. These being my new bobbins, I really love the bobbins. I love the fact that you can pick so many into one of these sticks. And as I say, I don't hate how the lace turns out. Now, it will be really robust at the end of it. And that's a good thing. You know, lace does not have to be, ridiculously fragile that you can't use it. And so, in some ways, although a neck curtain is supposed to be fairly delicate, if you were making more of a tablecloth, something like this would feel very appropriate. But the amount of bobbins you need, I mean, look at how many bobbins there are for this tiny square. Now, yes, there are pictures of bobbins, and they're making a smaller thing, and they have considerably more bobbins. But they're usually using infinitely tiny thread. This thread is not that tiny. It's the right size for the thing that I'm making. But, well, if this was done in anything else, it'd be half the number of bobbins. And now, I would say if it was half the number of bobbins, the cloth stitch hearts would be far more open and look a little bit more dog-eared. So again, from that point of view, I appreciate it. But the amount of time and effort that goes into actually doing it, and remembering how stuff goes in, how stuff comes out, which orders which, because, for example, when you get to this pin here, you have one that comes out, well, two that come out, but the first one is the one that's come across. That's easy. The next one, which is the one that comes out under the pin, is actually you cloth stitch it with what would be the one going this, well, which is the one going this way, and then take that leftover one out. And it's just kind of like, can't I just take two out? Can't I just take the first two out? Because there is no one worker thread, there are many, because they change every row in effect. Well, in fact, they do. Again, that can be a good point. It really can. But it just seems, well, a heck of a lot of effort. And hence, it's not growing very fast. Now, as we know, Liz has a habit of buying things. Liz bought another lace pillow. I'm not going to go and get it, but if you remember the one I did my Bucks Point bookmark on, the roller one, basically it's a slightly smaller version of that, because the big one, while it's big and great for big projects and lots of room for bobbins, it is a little big and unwieldy, but it's also, the roller on it was quite big for my hand. Well, this new one's green, and a bit smaller. Not a lot smaller, but a bit smaller. I mean, it's still got a roller on it that's like 6-7 inches, right? So it's still a decent sized chunk of thing in the middle. But it's more kind of this width rather than 70 centimeters. It's more of, I don't know, let's say 50 something. Or is it 90 and 70? I haven't measured it, to be honest. But it's about 20 centimetres shorter. It's a little bit shorter this way. The roller's just a little bit thinner, so it's easier for me to do with my hand. So I now have another one of those, which I like for making strips of things. Now, I really want to move this towards me, but then you're not going to see the bobbins. Let me move the light. Jesus, grabbing the light. You move the light a bit forward. There you go. There. That's a bit better. So, where were we? We have escaping bobbins out of this stick, because you've got trapped on things. And you look like you are... See, this looks like utter chaos. Compared to normal, this looks like chaos. Why? How? These seem to be in the middle. That this is two halves. You got added to the wrong stick. That's what's wrong. You got on the wrong stick. So you go over there, you go over there. It all looks like everybody got on the wrong bus, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It really looks like everybody got on the wrong bus on the last outing. So let's have a look so we can sort this out a bit. So you are definitely one happy pack of bobbins. You look like we need to find out where some of you come from. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Yeah. Because as you can see, there's like gaps. Now, you come from back up there. Stop falling out! Oh, for goodness sake! You're not helping yourselves. This is just... This is not helping migraines, that's for sure. So... There's only 3 bobbins there. So something's not right there. Because everything should be pairs. Let's not worry about you for a minute. Let's sort this layer. Now, there needs to be one more of these. How did it leap off over there? Now, before you ask, there is a reason why I'm undoing all these stitches. It is because confusion reigns. So we're going to sort everybody out and then redo everybody. It's definitely one bobbin missing from up here. Now the question is where in the blazes did it go? Because of course I can't see that due to having boobs. You. There you are. So you need to go under and over various bobbins. So, under you, over you, down over here. So you are a pair of bobbins, you're a pair of bobbins. I need my sticks and my pins. Ouch. So, now we've worked out some of the mess. You're a pair, you're a pair, you're too long. I'll worry about you in a second, although this is only 3 rows, so do you know what? Keeping your bobbins of a similar length feels like a full-time job, because the moment you seem to fix them, they set about doing wonky things, like this one. And again, because I've got a migraine, seeing and working out what it's doing so that I can, because for some reason it's just been wonky and I can't pick up the loop. There it is. I mean, they don't have to be perfect, but halfway down is not close enough, you know. You need it to be a bit more close than that. So, 4 of you. Oh, don't start with yawns already. I really don't need that. You're all messed up. Excellent. One of my viewers buggered off. Didn't say hi, as always. Alright. My internet's died. Yeah. Could you just make less noise? You're annoying. Look at your ears. Stop licking my hand, dog. So, just sit still. Now look at your ears. Now I'm being attacked by the dog. What? You came in here all slobbery chops with half your drink water over your face, slobbering it everywhere, making lots of noise. Yes. That's why I told you to shut up. It is. Oh, you've got coldy ears. Do wish your brother would stop chewing your ears, because it's looking like you're getting almost chilblains on your ears. It's not good for you. No. It's not. No, it's not. Doesn't feel like I did the right thing. Let me undo that. Oh, I did. Okay. are they all these... Why are all my bobbins coming out of the stick? Why are they being so annoying today? They're normally so well behaved. happy. That's where that should be. Doesn't feel right either. But it was. As you can probably tell, I'm struggling a little today. cold for flies. Sit somewhere I can flick you properly. Miserable fly. This is the problem when you have the back door permanently open. Things from the garden can come in. To make a bit more space. First of all, let's pin the end of this down before it gets more. So, you're not full, but you can at least be out of the way a bit more. Oh, I do apologise. Wish that fly would sit somewhere I can squish it, instead of just constantly flying around like a midge going. Oh, that last one. No, it is this one. What it is you are in the wrong place. You need to be there. Hey, Neck Kisser. Good to see you. I'm having a bit of a day. Following being a bit of a zombie yesterday, I'm struggling with a migraine today, and the brain cells are really, really having a hard time. So it is good to see you. Always helps to have a friendly face. How are you? You missed me mega sneeze, so I mean, you know, you did miss the worst part. Oh, and my internet died, and the stream died, I think, for a bit. Oh, well, I'm up for car stories. I'm always up for car stories. I mean, I'm up for all sorts of stories, really, to be honest. If you wish to share parts of your life, I am more than willing to listen and I won't say play along, but you know what I mean. Fair enough. Oh, that's not a good sign. Well, it's not just that. Sometimes, not wishing to cast aspersions on potentially where you bought it, but sometimes people put thicker oil than it should have in the car, so that when you come along to test and buy it, it sounds healthier than it really is, because the thicker oil masks some of the sounds. Eek. Mind you, it's at least 6 years ago now, because my father had died and I inherited everything because, well, I was an only child. I bought this house. That sounds wise. But when I bought this house, I had some money left. It sounds like it should. I mean, I know that here in the UK, a lot of garages duck out of things with, oh well, it's a wearable part. So, for example, I've only ever bought a second-hand car, so I bought a new car, and 2 days, I literally drove it the quarter mile home, went to go out, the next day, clutch failed. No, the exhaust fell off, that's right. Yeah, I mean, in my case, obviously, the exhaust literally fell off. And they went, oh, well, that's a kind of disposable part. It may be, love, but you just put an MOT on it. You just sold me it. I'd driven like 2 miles and the exhaust fell off. No. You know, if it had its MOT, which here in the UK we have to yearly get a proof of roadworthiness known as the MOT. And in short, if it passes its MOT, it's supposed to be roadworthy. Now, the truth of the matter is, yeah, I mean, you know, the truth of the MOT, you know, the honest truth of the MOT is, of course, they could prang it driving out the garage, so it's no longer roadworthy, but it will still have a valid certificate in the hand. But the principle is if you did bugger all with it, it should still be... Ours is yearly from 3 years. So the moment your car is 3 years old, you must now get yearly proof of roadworthiness. And obviously, each year they tighten it up so that the tolerances of various things are less. But on top of that, the older your car gets, the harder it is to pass. So the fact that I think it's... Hang on. 17... 15-year-old car passed first time this year without work being done to it. Holy shit, right? That's not normal in this country. I mean, there's always something bloody wrong with it. Usually relates to bushy suspension, brakes. It's usually something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, it adds... I mean, I get it, right? I mean, people don't take care of their cars. In part because at home you no longer can. Back in the day when your car, you know, you had a handful of spanners and you could pretty much dismantle your car. People looked after their cars, you know, dad and, you know, it was mainly a father-son thing, but dad and son would often spend, you know, Sundays tinkering on the car. These days, you can't do jack crap without 58, you know, electronic plug-ins and parts are as rare as hen's teeth. So you can't. You almost can't work on your car. If your car dies, it just dies. It doesn't go limp, limp, limp. No, it just wipes. It just sits there going, no. Well, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, the cars that I first had after I passed my driving test were all very much handful of spanners. You could go across the high street to a parts place and go, here, can I have one of these, one of those, and some of that for a make and model that I've got, please? And they go, yes, madam, that's £40. And you walked away and you went home and fitted them. These days, you have to plug it in. You've got to, you know, there isn't really room in the engine, so you need kind of gear to take engines out, almost just to change a light, you know, the headlight, let alone bulb, let alone actually work on the car. And so it is quite a frustration that... Hang on, I need to count these at the end to make sure I haven't screwed up. Brain's just thought of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right. And, you know, it means that even if I wanted to, I almost can't work on my car. There is nothing I personally almost can do to that car other than put tyres on it, pour engine water and stuff in it, in all of the... Yeah. Ooh. Is it an Audi? But again, modern cars do have smaller engine bays. There just isn't the room in there. You almost need like... Okay. But it is almost... Okay. But, you know, as you say, though, the gap, the workable area, you almost need child labour to get in there. Yeah. But it just seems that, you know, you've got to have the hands of a toddler to get in anything these days. Hence, you almost need to... Well, I do know that there is a model of car out there where they cannot fit a headlight bulb without removing parts of the engine to do it. Who in God's name thought that was a sensible idea? It's a freaking light bulb. You should be able to get in there and just change it. I know that even on my last car, which was a Freelander, the way that... Or was it this one? It might be on my Mini. I mean, that's pretty useful. But even so, sometimes it's just, you know, even the smallest adult almost doesn't work. It's, you know, you need almost like the 4-year-old child to come along and say, can you put your hand in there and grab that? And they'll go, pink, you know, and you... I'm not as I'm definitely wider and shorter than I desire. I'm wider than the required the doctor would require for my weight. I'm sorry. I think the short answer is to be my ideal weight, I need to gain a foot in height, you know, kind of deal. I'm not short. I'm 5'7", but I'm not tall either. I'm just kind of, slightly above average, depending on the average you choose to pick, because it seems to vary depending on a lot of things. But I'm also definitely fatter than I should be. So, you know, there could be a much thinner me, but there isn't. So, you know, bite me. I have lost weight, though. I'm not trying to lose weight, but I'm also not kind of going hell for leather and specifically trying hard. It's just kind of a natural, gentle stroll in the less weight direction, I think. Yes. So, I hope your car works out for the better. As you say, it can be that some gasket's gone and all you need is a new gasket and a change of fluid. Or it could be a sign of worse things, in which case your warranty kicks in. But they'll probably try and wheedle out of it if they're anything like people over here. That's the one thing that's always annoyed me, is that you buy things and it's got guarantees or warranties, and there almost always seems to be a, yes, but not in this case, because, madam, you know. one of the things I definitely struggle with, Netkisser, is the how to make the stream interesting. Because to be fair, we're making 72 of the same wretched triangles. It's kind of repetitive. So while I encourage everyone to ask questions and talk crap with me, I do fear that, to be honest, it's not exactly a interesting topic. I mean, it's one of those things, it's the, you know, we can all watch a documentary on a particular subject for an hour or something and go, oh, that was interesting. But that's it, you're kind of done now. There is no burning need to keep watching the, you know, to watch it 6 more times, you know. And I can't help but feel my streams are a little like that, in that once you've been to one, you've kind of been to them all. And people just aren't interested, because if I'm not talking, it's boring. But it's boring if I'm talking, because it's not usually about lace making. But then there isn't a lot to talk about in terms of, you know, making the lace, because I can say under, over and cross and twist, but doesn't really entirely, you know, make it interesting. I mean, earlier I showed a little while ago I had an excursion into Flanders lace, and I showed how I was doing with that. But to be honest, I'm not overly enjoying it. I'm not hating on it. I mean, I'm not hating on it like I do Picos, you know, so from that point of view, you know, it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, you know, it's back to our reward and effort kind of thing, is that, actually, you know, the amount of effort over, say, this in it is double the effort for not really a lot of reward, and it doesn't feel like best use of life, you know. It's, as I say, it's not that I dislike it, it's not that I would hate on it and I'd never want to do it again. And I think if I was making lace for clothes, that would be a very appropriate level, because it is quite strong and solid and robust fabric, for want of a better word, at the end of it. Whereas obviously this is slightly more robust than, say, Buck's Point, which is very flimsy and delicate. Buck's Point is often used for clothes, surprisingly, but it's also really easy to damage. Hence, you know, I went with torchon for this, because, well, it's kind of got a bit more grunt to it, but not too much more grunt to it, that it looks bulky and horrible, which to me, I think Flanders is not a net curtain-y style of thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's too, because its ground stitch is too solid, it wouldn't look right, you know, pretending to be a net curtain. This is borderline, to be honest, but I think this at least has an element of delicacy look to it, so at least, you know, it can fake being a net curtain, if you know what I mean, whereas Flanders definitely can't. It's got too much, it looks too much like you made it with paracord. I mean, let me show you. I mean, I know you can't really see the ground stitch, but think how thin the ground stitch was for that. And then look at this. If you look at how this ground stitch is, everything is 4 bobbins instead of 2. So where every pin meets is the meeting of 4 bobbins. Well, it means everything is that much more dense. All of the ground stitch, instead of being pairs of threads, is 4 bobbins wound together in a braid. It's quite a, I mean, from a strength point of view, it would make a great tablecloth, And it is reasonably open in the open areas, but it's not as open as other things. And, well, you know, net curtains are primarily, I mean, they are there for privacy, so, you know, that is a thing. But at the same time, you do kind of want light to come in. You don't want it to look like cloth with moth holes in it. You want it to look like it's a net. Now, on the subject of hating picos, I saw a video today which stemmed a thought, which was, in a different style of lace, not dissimilar, but well, that's a good thing, and prep work is a thing. I mean, when working with bobbins, you spend hours winding bobbins, counting bobbins, pricking holes in sheet of card. Well, in this case, I print on a piece of paper, I laminate it, and then spend hours pricking the card. So, you know, to be honest, we all have our crosses to bear when it comes to crafting. There are many things in life that they don't detract from the joy of our hobby, but they are necessary evils. I mean, for example, everyone who uses yarn can really enjoy a good bit of yarn shopping, seeing a pretty colour and going, oh, I really want that. You've no idea what you're going to do with it, but you need that one in your life. And oh, some of those, and oh, that would look good with it, and you still no idea what you're making with it, but now you've got like 58 balls of wool and no idea what you're doing with them all. So from that point of view, we've all had, you know, we've all got moments of our hobby that we thoroughly enjoy, such as picking yarn. Then we've all got... Yeah. And to be honest, lace bobbin feels a bit like that with the pins. As you know, my bugbear of lace making is the pins, because the actual stitches don't take very long. It's the pins. It is the confounded bloody pins that you have to stab consistently in there. Now, they do a good job, and I like them, and they hold the things, and it's not like they're not doing the job, and especially now I'm not using bendy ones, this is a really good thing. But everything has something that takes... Well, I've always equated it to the doing the washing. Something takes... Well, it's a bit like being fat, right? If you do the washing, you take, say, a blanket, and it gets grubby, so you put it in the wash. It takes seconds for it to get thoroughly wet. Hours for it to dry. Even if you're putting it in and like a tumble dry and you've spun it, and it's still usually slightly damp. So it will then take more time before it's dry. Being podgy. Eating too many calories takes 0 seconds, frankly. You know, I swear breathing has calories on occasions. Burning it off? Well, I seem to recall it's something like 4 hours walking to burn off 1 Snickers bar. My ability to eat Snickers and general food far exceeds my ability to exercise it off, which is why I'm fatter than I should be. Because I'm always hungry, and, well, I'm just not prepared to walk 24/7 so that I can eat what I want. And, again, reward, balance, all the rest of it. Effort and reward. But like you've said, you can spend hours lining something up. I mean, for example, if I warp up my weaving loom, depending on how I do it, I had the warp that's currently on it had a really dodgy start. I've got a warping board that you actually hook on the back of the loom, which is a really sensible place. It's a good height. It means it's the right size. You know, it's right next to the loom. It's really convenient. All those kinds of bits. But I discovered that because my brain has a bit of a problem with cables. Now, it's hard to explain. But imagine that this bit of elastic was curly. So if I twist it a little bit to give you an idea, and I put it, say, here in front of the camera, right? My brain freaks out when there's things in front of my eyesight because it can't decide whether I'm looking on that or in the distance. So this warping board that's on the back of my loom has nothing really behind it except for the loom. Well, my brain, and I couldn't work it out. It took me 6 weeks to work out why I was struggling with it. Again, it was I wanted to do this. I wanted to get the warp on the loom, but almost the moment I picked up the yarn to put it onto the warping board, my brain was going, nope, 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 can't be doing this, nope, 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 need out of this, need out of this. So I think in something like 6 weeks, I had put 50, I wasn't even 50 trips around the warping board on it. It was less. It was almost 1 a day. I was struggling to do 1 or 2 trips around the warping board a day, and I needed to do somewhere in the region of, I think it was somewhere in the region of 400. Anyway, my brain suddenly kind of had a bit of a brainwave, as brains do, kind of sitting on the can when you really, your brain's kind of free floating in and spinning in space. And I put a blanket up behind it. So that now, when I looked at it, I saw a blanket or the warp. There was no random room furniture behind it or bits of loom. There was just a sheet of plain colour with the warp in front of it. I finished the rest of that warp in about a day. After taking 6 weeks of not being able to face it. Because I'd walk in the room and go, nope, and walk straight out again. Well, yeah, I have a big fluffy blanket that I throw over the back of it. That I happen to have tan, because white would have been wrong, because then I wouldn't be able to see the warp. I needed something with a bit of colour, and this blanket was good, right? But it was one of those things is that normally, and this is something that I would say, a bit like your bead stuff, prep for weaving takes far too long for me. No matter what I did, I would argue that if I was, let's say I got really hacked off with what's on my weaving loom, because let's face it, I haven't touched it in a long time. So let's say I go, right, I want to cut it off, because clearly I'm not going to do that. Let's start again. Well, normally, if you watch videos, they go, oh, well, of course I can warp my loom in like an hour. Yeah, they never do it by themselves. They always make out like they can do it by themselves, but they're not. And, oh, well, it only takes me so long to warp my loom. Yeah, because you've got a buddy. You don't have to run to both ends of the loom. You don't have to check this, and you can't, because you can't look at everything while you're winding it on, right? And so you're kind of going, I'm so glad you can do it in an hour. The rest of us, I mean, to be fair, putting the warp on doesn't take that long. Getting the warp to put on it can. I normally argue that prepping my warp to put it on my loom and actually putting it on my loom and threading all the heddles, threading the reed, getting ready to the point that I am now ready to weave an object takes me a week. In part because I have a 37-hour-a-week job, bloody blah. But, and you know, not every evening is going to want to be filled with the joys of prepping for the work. But even if you do some every day, it seems to take me about a week to prep my loom. Because, of course, you've also got to clear off all the old stuff, you know. So it's about a week to move to the next project. Well, it's amazing how you can lose interest in a week. I'm sure occasionally you've counted your beads and then kind of gone, you really know I'm not in the mood of this now. Right? And there is a bit of that, I think, with a lot of crafts, is that we've all got a bit that sometimes you get to the end of it and go, why on earth am I doing this? I am really not in the mood for this. And to be honest, winding bobbins is a bit like that for me. I mean, I do have a bobbin winder. I love my bobbin winder. I think it's the best thing in the entire universe. Hang on. So, I have a bobbin winder. It attaches with a clamp to my desk so I can take it off. But what happens is you put the bobbin in the thing and you go windy, 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 and your bobbin fills up with stuff. But it's technically not quite that simple. As, you know, we all know. Well, exactly. As I said, I'm not diagnosed with ADHD, but I do have many commonalities with you. Or with your kind, should we say it at least in that sense. And autism people do often have a level of ADHD. I mean, I was always hyperactive as a child. Now I'm a sloth. Now I just don't want to do anything. But that's partly the depression. But I definitely do crafting by mood. Because I go through fads where, like now, I'm in a lace making mood, and I have been for a while, and I now have to keep it up till we get to the end of this project, whether I want to or not, I need to point out. I will finish this. But, at the same time, you know, I went through 2 or 3 years of weaving every day. But then I haven't woven now for over a year. Now, it's not that I hate it. I'm just doing this instead. And I know that there is nothing stopping me from, I know, after stream, while it's uploading, going next door and doing some weaving. Because, you know, really good. Or doing some more of my cross stitch, which I haven't touched for a while. There's a good reason why I haven't touched it for a while. When I started out, I bought a pattern, and I bought a kit. And the colouring of the kit, it was not as apparent as it could have been. And well, I don't like it, is the short answer. I don't overly like the colour. But of course, I've done 99% of it. Well, the front, anyway. But what? Since when are there green flowers? And it kind of doesn't look right. And I'm not far from finishing it. But the other problem with the finishing it side is that originally I was really excited because it was going to be a pin cushion. And I thought, great, I can use it as a pin cushion for lace making. And I read the instructions on the front and it said 8 centimetres. It's not a lie, but it's not true either. How do I explain it? Let me use this piece of paper. It's very small and it's got a lace pricking on it, but we'll use this. So, let's imagine, let's make this a bit more square, hang on. It's not a lace picking I need to worry about, so let me just make it a bit more square by doing this. Alright. So, let's fold this up. So, let's say that that's 8 centimetres square, because it's not far off, to be honest. the pincushion is not that big, because what happens is that you turn the corners down like this. And now, that's a hideous bit of folding bitch. Come on. So let's do this a bit more accurately. Come on. Let's do a bit more. I don't actually want to rip this piece of paper, but I don't need it, so I don't know why not. I just don't feel in the need to rip it. So let me... See, that's what's wrong with it. It's a funny angle there. Right. So, if that's your 8cm square, that then folds that corner down. That corner down. This one's harder because it's got the extra fat cloth. And that fold down, and then this corner down, because they meet along the sides, so that it's like this, and then the other square fills in the bits, so it's kind of a square. So actually the pincushion is this big. It's not a very big pincushion now, is it? I thought it was going to be 8cm, but of course it's not. So I've kind of got disappointed with it already, and I haven't even finished it. Because it is not going to be kind of what they advertised. Because it said it's an 8cm pincushion. Now, as I said, technically it's not a lie, because the squares making it are 8cm. But the resulted product is not 8cm. They did not make that clear. It just said 8cm pincushion. Sorry, 8cm biscornu. Well, I know what biscornu looks like, but I assumed that it would be 8cm at the end of it, not at the beginning. And even though when I first started stitching it, I'm going, this is going to be small. But the further I've got on and realised how small it's really going to be, really not interested in it now. What I will do is I will make one eventually, because this is technically also the first time I've done cross stitching. But I will make one eventually that is actually 8cm. I will get the maths out and I will work out how to make it 8cm. And do a pattern on that. That I will generate for myself. For I have the skills. I know what I can do. I can show you roughly what it looks like. Being an idiot here. Hang on. Let me load up application. Now, ignore the check marks. She says I need to make it a bit smaller. Hang on. No. There we go. If I make it a bit smaller like that. Ignore the check marks, because they're the stitches that I've done. But let me find the thing I need to change. Hang on. Let's do you. Do. Bonk. Okay. And so, this is the pattern. And it's not a bad pattern, but there's too much green in the flowers. And this is only an approximation of the colours. I don't remember how to hide the check marks, so bite me on that one. Does that do it? No, it doesn't change it. But there's just too much green. The lilac-y, pale, grey, purple is a bit too subtle. The squirrels in the lilac-y grey are very subtle in reality, because it's tiny. It's not an unpleasant pattern. It really isn't. But if you consider that realistically, half the swirls, the big 4 flowers in the corners, are all going to be round the sides, not on the top. The only bit that's really going to be on the top is kind of the white bit with the green swirly bits and the big flower in the middle. it's not inspiring me, to be honest. Now, I've only got a handful of the green bits to go. I really do. I only have a handful of the green bits to go. How much of it have I done? I've done 93% of it. So I really do have little to go. The problem is, I know it's not what I wanted. You know, it's the, I'm already know it's not what I wanted. I haven't even done the back part. The back part's got bugger all to do on it, but because I could leave it blank, to be honest. But it's just got that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just got that kind of parental disappointment on it already, you know? It's yes. And I think when I come to do an 8cm one, not only would I remove the green from the flowers and replace it with a more, you know, let's say I kept the pinky purpley colours, I would pick more pinky purpley colours to be part of the flowers, so that the flowers were pinky purpley. Now, the big green swirls could be leaves, that's fine, they can be leaves. But the bits in the flowers being green just pisses me off. Now, are they flowers? Don't really know. I mean, you know, it's cross stitch. I mean, it could be friggin' anything. But it does look flowery, so for me, I would keep the flowers in a more purple colour. Or pink colour, somewhere along those lines. More flower coloured, anyway. As you say, I think having the swirls around the sides would look good. But have the flowers at the corners at the top would be good. But of course, because it's going to be bigger, i.e. the 8cm portion, that whole thing could be on the top. So you then do more swirls around the side to make it kind of tie in with the sides. And the bottom, because obviously the corners of the bottom show on the sides. So you do swirly bits all around the sides. Probably put some beads on it and sequins and shit to make it pretty. And ta-da! Now you have a Biscornu pincushion actually worth having as a pincushion. Because as we know, I need a lot of pins. And so I need a lot of pincushion real estate. Hench Hedgie really struggles because, a bit like you counting your beads, I can spend 2 hours poking pins in Hedgie to fit as many pins as I can, and it feels like 10 minutes of, it's not 10 minutes, but it feels like 10 minutes of lace making, and I've emptied him. Part of the reason I'm not doing it at the moment is just because, screw it, I've got a tub of the things, and I've got 2 more little tubs of pins just in case, because these pins are cheap. They're ugly pins, they're horrible pins, they're a bit too fat. Do you remember that I bought some 0.5mm pins and some 0.6mm pins, and the 0.6mm pins came in a plastic tub? No, sorry, the 0.5mm came in a plastic tub, and the 0.6mm ones came in a cardboard skanky box. Well, I splashed out. I found a plastic box of the 6.6mm pins. So now I've got 1 kilo of 0.6mm pins. I think I might have enough pins now. I've got pins coming out the wazoo. And I might buy me another plastic tub. Bear in mind they're 50 quid each though. Of the 0.5mm pins, which were the pins I originally was going to use. But I quite like the idea of the 0.6 ones as well. Oh, and you know I bought... I shit you not. No, I really, really, really don't. I wish I was joking. Hang on. I honestly wish I was joking. Hang on. So, here you can see I have 500 grams of 0.6mm pins. Here you can see I have 500 grams of 6mm pins. Here you can see I have 500 grams of 0.5mm pins. I might have enough pins now. Do love these boxes though. Oh, assholes! Thank you. So, 500mm of 0.6. 500 grams rather. 500 grams of 0.6. 500 grams of 0.5. I have. That's 1.5 kilos of pins. And I might buy more of these in a box just because I really... I mean, I almost want to send these back, but I can't really justify sending them back when all that's wrong with them is they come in a flimsy cardboard box. But they cost 20 quid more if they come in a plastic thing. So I have pins. I have quality pins, and the main reason I'm not using them right here, right now, is because, well, I don't want to muddle them up with the previous pins. Whereas these skanky big pins, not really so proud. I'll just mix them in with the other pins. The other interesting thing, of course, is this is 750 pins, allegedly. It's interesting. They tell you how long they are. They don't tell you how big the actual pin is. They just say size 17. Whatever that. I could probably look it up, actually. But I also bought... I bought a lot of bobbins. The ADHD stroke hoarder within... has this klepto issue, hence buying 1.5 kilos of pins. I bought 750 bobbins the other day and was really pleased that they've arrived, and I'm really excited by them. Is it wrong that I've seen 120? I think it's 120. Hang on. Or was it 116? Hang on. It is 112. 112 ebony bobbins. And currently, they're hyper affordable. The current price on them is £10.50 with £2.94 postage. So basically, for the best part of £14, 112 bobbins. Now, obviously, it's got to run till Saturday. I think it is. But is it really wrong that I want them with all my heart? Because 112 bobbins is more than enough to do this. But they're ebony. They're ebony bobbins. And I love ebony. I've got a real thing for ebony. And this is where my hoarding kind of structure is that I don't hoard newspaper. I don't hoard pointless things. I hoard things of use. I'm just not using them right here, right now. And I think that's the thing is you've got a thing that you love, and everyone has a tendency, right? And I mean, if I could have bought those new bobbins in ebony, which technically I could, by the way, but my bank account forbade it. I mean, let me show you. Hang on, I can show you. Hang on. No, those are not the ones. Hang on. Yeah. Just get rid of the stupid thing on my screen, thank you. Right, so these were the bobbins. Hang on. Browser. go. Right. So these were the bobbins that I bought. And I bought 150 of the 13 centimetre ones, which au natural price is £88 for 150 bobbins, which I'm not overly prepared to pay much more than the pound a bobbin. Pound a bobbin's quite a lot. I mean, if you're buying 750 bobbins, that would be a lot. But obviously, some bobbins are just naturally more expensive. But if I'm pretty sure it's this person. There they are. Ebony bobbins. Let me show you the difference. 150 at 13 centimetres is now £278.5. If I'd bought 5 of those, I want them with all my heart, but I can't justify spending that kind of money on it, even though I really, really, really want to. I mean, I just can't. They would look exactly the same as the new bobbins I bought. They'd just be in ebony. They almost look plastic here, which is kind of amusing. But I want them. I absolutely want them. But I just can't justify spending, for example, if I add it to basket, I am going to be careful, panic not, right? And say I want 5 of them, I am not going to spend nearly £1,500 on a box of bobbins. Really not. Remove before I click yes, right? I really do want, I want with every atom of my soul, because I just can't justify like a month's salary on a small box of bobbins. Because I know that ADHD, my fadding brain cell, probably by the time I get to the end of this wretched neck curtain, will be sick of the sight of it and not touch it for 5 years. I mean, I can't do that. I really can't, I would love to. Oh, the glory. So, being able to, if I can pick those 112 ones up for a reasonable price, obviously, I'll put a reasonable limit on it. But if I can pick up 112 of those, which would be enough to do this, enough to do similar size projects. Now, of course, when I say similar size, I have been thinking long and hard about choices. And my brain is forever thinking about how I'm going to make almost a one-piece neck curtain. And there is a neck curtain on Etsy that I've been looking at. Now, it's not a full neck curtain, as in it's not the full height of the window. It's more of a valance, for want of a better word. But they've obviously made it as a zigzag going up and down like this. Well, up and down like this. Yeah, it is easily done. And this is where I try and put limits on it. Because, for example, you can get bone lace bobbins, and they are a thing of beauty. It's like for tablet weaving, I would love a set of bone tablet weaves, right? Cards. I can't justify the price for that either. I want them, but I can't justify the price for it. There are things, again, it's the, effort versus reward. And obviously in this case, we're talking money versus reward. And I've got many, and I do mean, before I bought these, nearly 900 in total of the new bobbins, I had nearly 2,000 bobbins. I've got about 400 of these, so I got quite a few of these. Because I bought 200 of the pale ones, and I think I've got about 150 of the older ones. But I've got various types of bobbins, and most part, I like them all. Then, you know, there's the only ones I hate are the Midlands ones with spangles on. But there is this kind of quest for the perfect, right? And it's not, as I say, it's not that that I can't use them. They're not fit for purpose. It's none of that. Trying to work out which way this stick is bent, because it's bent. No, it is bent this way around, right? But I really, really, really like ebony wood. Therefore, in the perfect world of, you know, just won the European lottery or something, I would buy ebony bobbins. And I would buy a truckload of ebony bobbins. Now, one of the main reasons I like the new bobbins is because they're heavy. Now, of course, ebony bobbins aren't as heavy. So from that point of view, I'm not sure I'd like the ebony version of the new bobbins as much as I like the actual new bobbins, because they're heavy. Whereas the ones that I'm looking at are similar to these. They're not these, but they're very similar to these. And so I quite like these. These are good. These are cool. You know, got no problems with them directly. So in having the option of buying enough to do this project with ebony bobbins, I thought that could be a nice, well, almost form of compromise for the want for ebony bobbins, because 112 is a reasonable number. I can, of course, then mix them with these because they are so similar. So if I did need extra bobbins, I could have some pale ones in the mix. So from that point of view, I think it is a reasonable answer to get the nearest to what I want, without breaking the bank. Now, obviously, I you know, like everything, you keep an eye out for things, but I'm never going to have, you know, a couple of thousand ebony bobbins. Well, maybe if they come up over the course of the years, and I can buy, you know, let's say they stay around the 20 quid mark, which would be great, frankly, because, you know, that means they were really cheap. Ooh, this is bent. You're too bent, go away. But let's say I pay £20 for it. Well, let's say I get over the next few years, I get to buy many more of basically the same, but in chunks. Well, that's fine. You know, build up a collection, but at least I'd have some. I'd have some projects I could do with the ebony bobbins that my heart so desires to have. Because, of course, ebony bobbins and white threads is quite a striking thing. Now, of course, as I said earlier, there is a part of me that you can buy bobbins and, you know, you find them on Etsy, you can find them on eBay. £35 a bobbin because it's got some decoration on it. Now, I don't disagree that decorating bobbins is hard going because they're, well, small, round, you know. But while I'm flicking my bobbins, I mean, there is one of my bobbins here is damaged. It's got a flat bit, so it's like, you know, someone accidentally hit it with a chisel and took a chunk out the side. It's got like the round bit here has got a big flat bit taken out the side of it. And it clearly it broke off probably at the time of making, right? But they included it anyway because, well, sod it, right? And I don't blame them for that. But you then kind of get well, I didn't even notice it was missing a chunk for ages. Well, if I can not notice it's missing a chunk, any writing and picture on it is clearly not going to be the first thing I notice about my bobbins. It's clear, you know, so having decorated bobbins for me clearly is not, you know, it's like decorating your spinning wheel. You know, yes, people do decorate their spinning wheels, but when it's spinning round and round, you can't see it. So, I mean, some of them are beautiful, do not get me wrong. And I have been tempted by, because I like my spinner loose and spinning wheel. There was someone who on Etsy at one point who, much against the wishes of the Spinolution company, was selling them engraved. So they'd do like, obviously dismantle it, etch the wheel, etch the pedals, etch, the upright and all of that, and with like a laser burner. And so they had glorious patterns, and they were things of beauty. Now, you see, that makes a lot of sense. Washi tape is a glorious substance for that very reason. And, almost washi taping your bobbins, other than they're not, these aren't straight, so it wouldn't be much help. But again, if, picking on ebony bobbins, for example, the shape of my new bobbins, flat, for example, you could make some really pretty bobbins by bits of washi tape round, in stripes or whatever to make them pretty. And that's perfectly good. But you're not permanently disfiguring it and making it so that, for sake of the argument, if you have a hideous accident and need to sell all your crafting gear because you can no longer craft, well, you're now into the personal taste scenario. And this is one of the things that I've always felt when people paint their wheels. Now, other than the paint tends to be too thick and let's have a look. Let's have a look. You see, that's pretty. That looks pretty. And but you've also put washi tape in bits that don't get a huge amount of wear, but that attract a bit of colour is a pleasant thing, right? And so, from that point of view, that's a really sensible thing. But when you get the people who have done the painted their wheels like lime green with pink flowers on it, I've seen one. It was hideous. And it looks a bit like, your 5-year-old child painted it. Well, your resale value of that is going to be not a lot. Whereas what you've done is you've decorated your wheel, but you've done it in such a method that you wipe it, you peel it off. At worst, maybe need to have a slight damp cloth and wipe over some slightly gluier spots, right? That's fine. That's great. You've personalised it, but in a way that is very undoable. It would be like, tying bits of ribbon around, wheels of slats of your wheels almost. Those kind of decorations are great. But the moment you make a more permanent one, so for example, people paint their weaving looms, I've seen people put permanent marker on numbering things, and if you don't do it in a professional manner and it looks a bit like your 5-year-old child did it, well, next person coming along who really, really wants one, unless it's cheap, might not want it anymore because it looks like a 5-year-old child did it. And it may not be, there are times when you can go, yeah, whatever, and it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it does detract from any resale value. Now, of course, none of us are intending to sell our equipment because we're hoarders and we like doing crafting and we intend to die doing it. But you never truly know. And come your demise, well, maybe your family won't want to keep it. And then you get stuck with the fact that then, you bought a really expensive thing, you made it very you, but no one else in the world will like it that way because you've picked, I won't say an offensive colour, but a colour that requires a bit more similar-minded people. So if you paint it hot pink, for example, not everyone wants a hot pink one. They really don't. Some people will love it because it's hot pink and pay you a fortune for it. And for all of those, there's someone else going, ew. Right? It is personal taste. And I think this is why sometimes you've got to be careful when you decorate your tools. Because if they are tools that are designed to outlive you all, so for example, these bobbins, I mean, they're clearly fairly old. I don't know how old they are. They're just second hand. But if someone said to me these were early 20th century bobbins, I wouldn't be too surprised. I'd be surprised if they were older than that. But, you know, if they were early 20th century bobbins, I wouldn't be too surprised. So potentially a couple of generations of people have had these bobbins. I mean, as I say, this one really looks like it's had a bit of a tough time, so it very much could be. You know, quite a few of them have almost, I want to say, ingrained dirt, if you know what I mean. It looks, you know, they look like they've been around a while. But if, for example, I dipped them in plastic coat, if I tried to draw on them, God help me, please not, because I can't draw. But if I did that, well, I've got to be careful because times of the change, you know, things of the time change. So if I did anything, you know, not every decoration is timeless. You think of, if someone said to you Paisley, you think 1970. Paisley is not something you see too much of these days. You have to be careful that how you're going to do it. Some things have a more timeless look. Other things do not. And it is one of those kind of parts where I think you need to be careful because, you know, things like spinning wheels will live for hundreds of years if people let them. I'm not saying we don't, but it, you know, kind of what, you know, having it on your walls, for example, was a very 70s thing to do, right? It is. I just think sometimes when people decorate it, they obviously decorate it because that's what they love. The problem is not everybody else will love it for it. I know a lady, or I know of a lady, to be more accurate, who has exceptionally loud colour tastes. So she has painted a tractor like hot pink, purple and green. I'm pretty sure those are the colours. But lots of her house is hot pink, purple, green, bright blue. It's a colour explosion. But I can also tell you now that nearly every person who ever goes into that house, should she need to sell it, are going, oh no, I've got to repaint that. They wouldn't. They're not bad colours as colours. But you wouldn't necessarily want to live in them. Now, not everybody's the same. Some people, there's been a few houses here in the UK that made the news. There was the purple house. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the colour purple. Well, I'm not overly against the colour purple. I've got a lot better with purple than I used to be. But it is not my favourite colour in the world. But this house, literally everything in it, every wall, ceiling, floor, curtain, widget, picture, you know, coaster even, is purple. It's a bit overly purple when everything is purple. Not a single thing is not purple. It's a bit much. And, you know, this is why I don't tend to decorate my tools and my equipment. I mean, my loom, part of my loom, I wanted to stain it a darker colour, funnily enough. Make it look a bit more ebony looking, funnily enough. But I didn't because, well, not everybody else would want it then. Maybe only I would want it, and that I would condemn it to a graveyard of being burnt alive kind of thing as firewood because no one else would buy it. And you're like, it's not its fault. So I tend to leave things as they came. But if I can get me some ebony bobbins, oh, I want those ebony bobbins. I will be brave for those ebony bobbins. So I'll let you know on Saturday. Come about 5 o'clock, I think it is. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it was like the other day, Net Kisser, when I was showing you I think I showed you the Barbie head spinning thing, where they'd made yarn with Barbie heads on it. It's stuff like that. There is technical skill in that, and I really do understand. There is a really strong technical skill in that. But what do you do with it? Who else would want that? Who actually wants that? You're hardly going to be able to take it down the market and sell it for a reasonable money, unless you're really lucky. But of course, that's where art is, isn't it? It is the art side of it. We all know that you can see a picture on the wall and go, "Oh, that's pretty." That's right, you made me suddenly think. The pale one in the middle, your main colour, reminded me of my curtains, even though my curtains look nothing like it. And in fact, technically my curtains have big flowers on, which... Now, from a slight distance, they don't look like big flowers. They look like circles with a background pattern. But actually, technically, they're flowers. But, yeah, for some reason, it's the same sort of colourway as my curtains, to be honest. I think that's why my brain is associated with it, is because it's very similar colours to my curtains that I got with a house, because I'm lazy and haven't changed them. To be honest, would I change them? Maybe. Actually, they got rings on the tops. Yeah, I probably would, actually. I've got some fabric at my old house that I could use, but I can't be bothered. Really can't. I don't generally do anything with my curtains, so to be honest, if I took them off, I wouldn't notice. That looks like it's going to be a great quilt, though. I can't wait to see that one. And you see, this is the other problem, is that since doing this, my brain has been going, can we do some patchwork quilting again? Brain. Can you just pick something and finish it? Just pick something and finish it. So I'm determined to make my brain finish this. And to be honest, you know, we're doing all right. We're nearly 5 squares through. You know, let's face it. I mean, like everything, right? I mean, crochet, poke, wrap, pull. So it's knitting, to be fair. I crochet and knit too. So I haven't done any for a while, but I've been sitting here thinking about it. Because I sit and think about doing lots of things. I need about 150 hours a day with no job but the salary, so I can actually buy the shit to do the work. So basically, I need to be paid to sleep. So that I can then have 150 hours a day to do all the crafting that I want to do, so I can make all the things that I actually want to make before I'm too old to make them. Which clearly is, you know, a time creeping upon me. You know, I discovered the other day that my ex-husband's had a stroke. You know, that could be me. I could have one any day, frankly, you know. I mean, I'm not high risk for one, unlike he was. He is very high risk from stroke, so it was less of a surprise. But at the same time, I have a friend who, about the age of 40, had a stroke. Well, I'm 52. You know, I'm almost overdue. It's... you know, it is that kind of problem, is that a lot of these things can grab you whenever they damn well please, and will, and leave you in a position where you aren't able to anymore. There's some people I talk to on a Discord channel, and one of them's had a stroke, and she struggles to do crafting because one side of her body's a lot weaker now. And it means that things like crochet, because you've got to hold quite well with both hands, is harder. She finds knitting easier because, you know, you're almost just, you know, one hand supporting a needle. But you don't need to grip quite so hard. Unless, of course, you're a really tight knitter. But, you know, clearly she's got that sorted. But it is one of those things, is that, you know, it could happen to any of us almost. During 2020, a guy we worked with died of a stroke. He wasn't even 40 yet. So yeah, it is one of those kind of moments, is that, you know, for all the things you want to make. Oh, sweet. I like the look of that. Yeah, I definitely like that. Yeah, I definitely like that. I've always, one of the things that I've always kind of been a fan of are stained glass windows. Yeah, I can see that. I like stained glass windows, and so I would be very tempted to make that pattern in a stained glass window kind of manner. And already my brain's going, oh, I've got the perfect, I know where to get the perfect fabric for that. Brain, will you shut up? Right? Because I've got a particular fabric that I'm rather fond of. And for no good reason, actually. Let me show you. I mean, it's nice, but it's not, you know, outstanding. Hang on. Yep. I've bookmarked it on eBay because, well, got to keep an eye on it just in case I really, really do cave, right? Oh, don't eBay's change shit again. Right. So, if I browse it, like this stuff, these kind of this motley coloured stuff, right? Well, if you had black with motley coloured stuff, especially good, strong coloured stuff, that pattern would be so cool. And you see, that would be me. I would want, you know, a black outside, because black edges tend to look slightly less crap for a long time. Ooh, what's that? That's got sparkles in. Add to watch list. Oh, I've got to pick a colour, have I? Meters, whatever. Colour. Any. Just so I can find it later is what I really want. This has got sparkles in it. So, hurrah! Sparkles are cool. We like sparkles. Who doesn't like a good sparkle? I'm terrible. But of course... This is why we crafters get mistaken for hoarders, right? Is because you go, oh, I could make this, and oh, I could make that. And I've been thinking of ordering some of that kind of patchy looking fabric anyway, because I really like it. Now, I was thinking of getting some so that I could make a bag for my new bobbins, so that I could, you know, shove my new bobbins in it. But now I want to make a quilt with stained glass and no! Stop it! Neck kisser, I'll block you. I wouldn't. I wouldn't block anyone who comes to watch me. Not unless they're rude. It applies to all crafting paraphernalia. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, whatever hobby you've got, there are things. Bobbins. I'm gonna butcher your name, so Flusen. It's called. If I call you Flusen, please hope that is not offensive to you, because I'm dyslexic and I'm terrible at reading. But I bought a lot of bobbins. Now, this is not all of my bobbins. I actually bought 750 of these. Prior, I bought 150 of them to find if I'd like them. I love these bobbins. These are a thing of glory. But I had, before I bought them, nearly 2,000 bobbins in varying forms. So it's not like I didn't have bobbins. Yay! That means you've counted your 232 beads that you were... I was paying attention. I can do numbers. It's words I can't do. But it was... You know, I have struggled with all my life with... I call it kleptomania of notebooks. For the girl who can't read her own handwriting, and if I tell you that one and the look exactly the same... Fair enough. Although I'm not sure kind of hairball really is the name of the game. My German is appalling, so I will not try and I will not offend your mother tongue with my terribleness. And I was 16 years old when I last really used it, so it's been a while, and I'm old and rusty. I can occasionally... Cats are cool. Just because I've got dogs doesn't mean I hate cats, you know. I used to be allergic to cats, which was a bit unfortunate. But I'm not anymore, which is even weirder. So there you go. I grew out of it. Aged about 40, I suddenly grew out of it. It was really weird. Funnily enough, I think it was when menopause started, but there we go. But yeah, I think every hobby has something that almost is made of other hobbies, such as collecting knitting needles, collecting crochet hooks, different spinning wheels, because, well, technically, every spinning wheel does the same thing, but some lend themselves to some things better than others, and and some you naturally get on with, and some you don't so naturally get on with. And the problem is until you've sat down with one for a good few hours, you often don't really know. And I find the same is true with, in this case, bobbins. The only bobbins I really hate are Midlands ones. You see, this is it. You can collect things because they appeal to you, even though they're not really your bag. Now, this is kind of where I'm at with lace making, in that I am not a lace girl. I do not need lace. I don't really want it in my house. I've got, it'll just collect dirt and be annoying, and that just means I've got even more crap to clean that I don't clean, more stuff to feel guilty for not having thought about for 5 minutes. So with all of those things in mind, lace making is a pretty dumb hobby for me, but I do actually kind of like making it. I just don't necessarily want it afterwards. And so it can sit in a pot or a box or something, and that'll be fine. But I did try and... The whole reason I'm making this is so that I've got something that I have made that I will technically use. Mainly because I'll stick it up in the window and then probably never look at it again. But that's so not the point. It will keep... My brain's been nagging on about curtains for... Well, it's nearly 2 decades. It was 2005. I was working it out. 2005 is when I started with the... Hey, I could make a double knitted window covering. Yeah, you could. And you can also sod off and not do that because you'll be in a lunatic asylum. And that's where I'm at with this, is I like the process of making lace. I don't dislike looking at the end product. but I don't need it in my house. I don't want it on my wall. Why would you put lace on the wall? You know, I mean, you can have a wall hanging, but, you know, let's face it, bookmarks hardly a wall hanging. And so a lot of these things is I enjoy the process of it. I enjoy the logic of it because I am very much a logic person. But I like the fact that logic turns into art. And, well, it's a kind of art that my brain can do and think about and handle. So, with all that in mind, for me, this is a very practical and sensible art form. But in terms of an art form, once made, it's almost, you know, kind of throw it away, start again, because, well, I don't really need it, want it, you know. Now, I don't want to throw it away because I put time and effort into it, so it's going into a little box. That's fine. I do want to make things for people because I enjoy making things for people. But to be honest, I don't know many lacy kind of people. In fact, I can only think of one person who would adore some lace. And she's not directly my friend. She's a friend of a friend, if you know what I mean. She would adore lace. You know, if I made her a really frilly thing, she'd probably love it to within the, you know, more than life itself. Because that's the kind of person she is. This one's going to run out. This one I think is going to run out of thread before the end of the day. Well, the end of the triangle. It's going to be close, but we shall see. So yeah, I enjoy making it, and I enjoy some of the things that I've made, but I've no use for them. Hence, I thought of a net curtain-y thing for windows, something to put in the windows. Now, obviously, I don't want to make windows for my entire house because I'm going to be at 103 before I even get to the end of my house. But not because my house is huge, just because it takes that long to make. My co-worker, because we get on famously well. In fact, he's been really quiet this evening. Let me check that my phone has not been. No, he's been just really quiet this evening. Bit worryingly quiet, actually. But I joked about how it's going to take about 18 months as an approximation to make my net curtain, right? Because it does seem to average 8 square a month, right? And this month we might do slightly better because I did have a good run on a bit. But at the same time, I've then had a bad run on a bit, so I probably evened it out. He went, well, you could always make net curtains for my front window. He's got 6 window panel. He's got effectively 6 windows in his front window. Well, as I said to him, 18 months a window, that's a lot of time, mate. I'm not sure that I'll be good for that, you know. Plus, if I charged you for it, I don't think you could afford it, you know, because that much time, I'd want good money for that. It was a joke because I'd never charge him for it, but that's not the point, right? But even then, just to buy the thread alone for it would be expensive, right? I mean, not ridiculously so, but you know, it's not cheap. So I don't know. I wish I wanted to use the lace. One of the things I have considered, and this would mean learning a new hobby, of course it bloody would. Resin. Exactly. For my friends, it is, if you'd like to make a cost towards, you know, contribution to the parts, you know, the cost of the materials, I'll accept that much off for you, but I will not accept more. If I don't like you, oh honey, I'm going to be retiring on the cost of this one, you know, kind of deal. Yeah. I usually pick on Elon Musk because he's got a lot of money. It'll be kind of like, well, if you get your mate Elon Musk to cough up a few billion quid, I'll do that. Yep, I can make you that. It's a bit like the, can you knit me a black or crochet me a black blanket? Yeah, I mean, it is always difficult when they're friends because you don't want to rip them off. But at the same time, if it's a decent enough project, I mean, if someone asked me to make a bookmark, whatever, right? If someone asked me to make a king-size bedspread, you're going to have to dip your hand in your pocket because the amount of thread to do that and the amount of time to do that are something else. Now, again, I'd probably make a bedspread a little like this. So it would be almost like making it out of granny squares because you make squares and join them together. Because at least that way, like this, you are feeling like you're making progress. If I tried to do a king-size bedspread in one go, I could spend 4 hours doing it. I'd have done the bit the size of a postage stamp and you just wouldn't notice and it would be demoralising. I mean, it would be a thing of gloriousness at the end of it, but no, is the short answer. You know, unless you're waving Elon Musk's bank account, I am not signing up for that job, you know. But if you want a bookmark, if you want a, you know, a small thing, you know, to a coaster or, you know, fine. But the bigger it is and the more effort and time and faff and the more you stipulate about the colour, the shape, the thing, the, you know, the more fussy you get, you know. I mean, that was why my co-workers did so well out of the tea towels. Because basically I could try out loads of techniques and colourways and all the rest of it. And then maybe, you know, and then any money I got from it I actually gave to the local dog charity. But, you know, I didn't feel so bad because I got to do what I wanted to do, basically, and gave them some tea towels at the end of it. Do you want tea towels? Yes. What colour can't you have? Great. And then went off and made something. That was as much say as they got in it. And so from that point of view, happily to make them tea towels, you know. And of course, now I've changed employer, I can start all over again. Ads are starting. Any moment. You have to tell us about what hobbies you do, Flusen, because obviously you've knitted and crocheted. We'd love to hear what else you do. If any, obviously. Very much up my art then. I suck at gameplay, but it doesn't stop me doing it, and I've been a programmer since I was 11 years old, so I very much relate to those thoughts. Awesome. No! Listen, what is your main programming language of choice? I just hope you don't say Java. Fair enough. You have style and grace, my good friend. Well done. I can do C sharp. I can do C++, but I do tend to err on the side of C sharp because I'm lazy. Oh, it's easier. It's easier to faff around in C sharp. I can do 25 programming languages, and so I really... I can do stuff that have literally no... I can do multi-user fourth. Who in the name of mercy needs that shit? The answer was I did. C sharp is definitely the way to go because you don't have to be quite so anal about memory. Well, you're anal with your memory, but you don't have to be quite so specific like you do in C++. Everything else is pretty similar. I mean, obviously C++ has often got the edge on it in terms of speed, but in terms of readability and throwing it together ability, C sharp is just a bit easier and a bit more forgiving, and more you're going to get to a usable result just that little bit quicker. So for example, I've been doing that for quite a few years. It would be my C sharp is my first choice just because I'm lazy now. In days of yore, I would have varied it with Pascal and C++ and varying other things, but today I've got a Raspberry Pi. I feel that should be obligatory, really. My Raspberry Pi has many roles in life. One of the advantages of C sharp, of course, is that you can also stick that on your Raspberry Pi. So, I've got a few programs that run on there. I've got one that monitors my internet, one that monitors updates of a particular program, one... I've got all sorts on my Raspberry Pi. And that's just the stuff I've written, let alone the stuff that, it's got Pi-hole on it, so I don't get so many ads, and does my DNS, does my DHCP, because I am a geek, because it's what I do for a living. Yeah, I mean, Flusen, I have to say, the only reason I don't use Unreal, I use Unity instead, is because Unreal dropped their web game support, which I was distinctly miserable about. So I've stayed with Unity. Otherwise, I would be Unreal by now. Well, I have done Unreal. I will say that the compile time for Unreal is horrendous, and there's another reason why C++, C sharp is a good thing. Fair enough. I mean, I work in it. Technically, I haven't worked in the programming world for 24 years. I still write programs because I wrote the patching system. I wrote a replacement for Ansible or Chef, depending on your point of view. But basically, I've got a system that is a mass control center and can roll out applications. I wrote all of that. So I do these things. And then you get told by your job, well, we think you could do more. Go on then. You find me one. Who will do my job for my salary with my skill set? Go on, find me one. I'll wait, Which is funny enough. I think why my work's been... bear in mind, I got outsourced at the end of last year. Now, I got to go with my job but my job got outsourced last year. Part of the reason for that was that every time they tried to get someone to come to do my job so that they had a spare me, they all refused. Yeah. I think part of the reason we got outsourced was because, as I say, they wanted to spare me, but every time they interviewed someone, they either had the brain cells of a turnip. Dear God, one guy we had, I'm impressed he manages to wake up in the morning. He had so few brain cells. But no, seriously, the most complicated thing he had done to date, bear in mind he was applying for a third line role as a technician, was boot off a USB drive. Really, you plugged it in and you hit F12 and you hit boot from USB. That is the hardest thing you've ever done in your technical career. Go home. Sorry, dude. That didn't wash. We laughed at you for that. There are children who've done that. Come on. Pascal times will be begin and end. That's what you need to remember. And becomes equal. But it is one of those things, right? Is that every time they've tried to get me a friend at work, they've either been fairly new and inexperienced, or terrible. And we have had some good people, but I don't know whether it's because of who I work for or what, but every time they've tried to get someone, they failed. They spent 4 or 5 years, allegedly, looking for people. There were a few interviews, but most people got rejected by either HR or the management, and the few that did make it to interview were terrible. And you're like, I'm sorry, but if you're looking to replace me, you need to find someone who's got I'm not even necessarily a similar skill set, because many of the things that I can do, I do not do as a part of my job. But at the same time, just to even cover the bits that I do for my job, you need people with far more skills than you're going to get for the money you're offering. So, good luck with that. As my new employer is also, I think, struggling slightly with. But they're very glad that they got to keep me. Well, I'm so glad for that. Now pay up. No, I don't mean that. Right, what am I going to do next? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Migraine's wearing off a bit. That's a good thing. We needed that. We needed the migraine to take a little bit of a journey. I get a lot of migraines, so I try not to stop for my migraines, but sometimes you don't have a lot of choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did take some anti-migraine stuff before the stream, I should point out, so clearly it is working. I mean, it's still there, but it's not right up there. It's just kind of niggling away gently at a more ignorable level. And I know most people go, you can't ignore migraines. You can if you have enough of them. That's all I need to say to that. If you get them every day, you start learning how to ignore the fact that you can't see through an eyeball, and you've got flashing lights, and you feel sick, and you're cold, and all the other zillions of frigging things that you get with it. You just kind of... I mean, I've sat in an office on a hot day in a big boiler jacket with dark glasses on and a hat, trying to disappear into my clothes, squinting out, trying to do my work, because, well, that's how it goes, Fortunately, I work from home now, which is a lot easier in life. For you can set the lighting to the lighting you require, not the lighting everybody else requires. So you can turn all the lights off, and you can turn everything down to the faintest of faint, and set the level of noise to what you want, except for the dogs, obviously, because they'll just do what they want. So yes, right, let me see. We are now going to need more of you. Let's grab a couple of you, because we're going to need some of you. Everything seems to be in the way of everything else today. There we go. Let me do that, because that's a bit more of a. You can see my poor terrible duvet that inevitably I've got over my legs. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mambo number 5. We need 2 of you. You're across, that's fine. So yeah, I'd be doing much more in Unreal if they still supported web games, because much like my crafting, I tend to make my stuff for free, so I put it on my website. I mean, I mainly mess around. I'm not really doing anything hugely serious, but I want people to be able to play it on my website rather than get the it doesn't work with my computer kind of stuff. And so, you know, Unity makes that quite easy for me because the WebGL and WebGPU stuff works, so that's quite a pleasurable. Plus, of course, it's C#, so that again makes it nice and easy to play with. So I've been doing that, really. I have done some Unreal, just because I can. So it's not like you need to pay to do it, so. But of course, one of the other differences with Unreal is that with Unity, if, let's say for sake of the argument, I make something and it makes me some money. I'm not quite sure how it's going to make me some money, but let's say somehow it makes me some money. I can make $200,000 worth of money without paying a penny to Unity. So that's fine. I don't need to pay them a bean. The moment I start making more than that, well, now I've got to pay them money. Which isn't a bad thing. You know, it's not that I don't feel they deserve money, because I think, to be honest, they kind of do. But, once again, Unity are now currently laying off people, and they've killed off some product teams that were really good parts of the product, which is slightly frustrating, but there we go. They had a thing called behaviours, and they've made a behaviour graph thing, and it was looking to be quite a promising tool. It was easy to extend. It worked on their graphing tool, so it all looked pretty posh. It was easy for people to use. And the way that it worked out was that, you know, if you had public variables, you know, it almost was like needs, targets, whatever, and you could, and it was so well worded that it meant that, frankly, any idiot could manage to use it, and I really liked it. I didn't add, did I? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to get out. This is why if you ever watch me doing these, I tend to do like, on the way back, I would do this pet and then chuck them out and then do the rest, so that I don't end up miscounting. It helps with me not forgetting, because then when I look at it, like then, because I hadn't stopped and thrown them out at the beginning, I had 5 pairs, which is the right number, and it's too easy to keep going and not realise that you haven't done it right. So hence I do tend to stop and throw out immediately, so that they are no longer part of the thing, so that when I count them I realise I'm short. I do need to do an experiment, actually. Because one of the things that you do, as you're doing this, I have 5 primarily as I'm working going this way, and I have as few as 3 when I'm working this way. And I'm pretty sure I can change that, so I only ever always have 4, because if you actually look, these ones are thicker than these ones, even though they occupy the same space. They look thicker. Because, well, there's more bobbins in it. It's the short ones. See, I do the 2, put them out, and technically that's a stick's worth, so we'll stick these up out the way. But if I take them out now I've only got 4, and my brain knows that that's not enough bobbins for going in this direction, therefore I need to add some when I get to the other end. Now it should know it needs to add some the other end, but it's too easy at this point to forget and not add them when you've already got 5 in the bundle, because we've got the right number of bobbins. So. Of course, some of the earliest computers were weaving and knitting machines, so maybe that's why we are drawn to being geeks as well. Or as geeks, we are drawn to crafting. Maybe a bit of both. Oh, that's a piece of cake to use. You'll love it. The one problem I have with knitting machines is that going zoop, 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 which is all you realistically have to do for a lot of the time. I object to calling that hand knitted. We had this discussion once before. Where does hand knitted, handmade, and homemade, where do people draw the line? Because, for example, let's take your knitting machine, right? I've got one of those. I've got 13 knitting machines, actually. They're actually quite simple to look after, so it shouldn't be too bad. But if you and I sit there with knitting needles going nim 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 nim, right? Everyone agrees that's handmade. If you made the yarn to it, even more handmade. But it's still handmade if you buy the yarn, because, life's short. If you wiggly, 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 zzz, 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 and you've now made the back of a jumper. Because let's put it this way, in about 30 minutes you can make a baby blanket. So, it's kind of a bit quick. It's a bit like driving a car. You were the operator of the car. You did not propel yourself at 80 mile an hour down the motorway. You controlled the vehicle that went 80 mile an hour down the motorway. You were in charge of it. You oversaw it. You managed it. You were its supervisor. But you didn't do it. And similarly with the knitting machine. If you set up the knitting machine and, it doesn't almost matter whether you or a small child sit there going zzz, backwards and forwards, there is no skill in it. It is just, ensuring the machine does its job. It's like turning on a hand mixer, right? It's doing the work, you're overviewing it. And calling it handmade becomes a little more dubious because, hands, arguably, you provided the propulsion. Now, homemade, sure, definitely. It's definitely homemade because you made it in your home. But if you kind of didn't really handmade, and the problem is you get lots of people who go, it's handmade, but they made it on a knitting machine. It's hand knitted. No, it's not hand knitted. It's not hand knitted. It's homemade. And I feel it detracts from the poor sod who actually sat there going in the corner, right? Because they spent months on that, whereas you spent half an hour going right? Now, let's take it up one more notch. I have a knitting machine that has a motor. So all I actually need to go is type, enter, and it goes I don't even have to provide the hand power to move the head. Well, that's definitely not handmade. But I still make it in my home. Now, there are people who would still call that handmade. I can't get behind that. That's once, and this is where, with all due respect to the computerized loom, this is where parts of me starts finding the grey. Now, bear in mind, autistics don't usually do grey, right? But for me, there is definite grey in where do you draw on the line? Because with my weaving, I have to tie up every treadle, I have to stomp on every treadle, I provide all the movement, the machine is... Well, I hope so. It'll be good to see you again. It's nice to meet you. I hope you've enjoyed your time and the weird discussions that we have. It's 10:15, so... Oops, didn't add some. Two, three, four. Rory's got a bee in his bonnet. What's up, Rory? What's the matter, little man? What have you heard that you shouldn't? No idea, it's too dark out there. Hello, Rory. What did you hear? Did you hear something you felt you shouldn't? Sit out the front. Sit. That's right, you headbutt the microphone. I'm sure they liked that. What's the matter? You came herring in from the garden like someone had told you off. Yes, you did. You've just heard something else. Might be your sister, you know. It is your sister. Yes. Even I guessed it was your sister. You're gonna lie down now. Amy, can you not stand on that? It's really not a paw rest, darling. I know it is to you, but it's not to me. It's like if I sat on your head. Yeah. Puppies, you're not helping. No. You're not. I love you dearly, but you're not helping. Tell you what. Let me get to the end of this bit, and you can have cheese. We haven't done cheese for a while. Let's get to the end of this bit. What are you making in your beading thing? No, but never mind, eh? It's late. We can all cope with it. There is nothing worse. I mean, it was at the beginning of the stream, and it's kind of like all of those bobbins look like someone just chucked them in the air and dumped them. It's not going to work, is it? Yeah. Oh, cool. Wow. Yeah, I bought a load of beads to add to my lace making. I feel that some glittery things on the edges of some things could be useful, depending on what the things are. That's a lot of beads. They sound like they're as tiny as the stupid beads I bought. Hang on. Let me grab my pile of bobbins off the top. Hang on. So, I bought, in my little box of goodies, some really tiny little tiny beads. I do have a few bigger beads, but I also bought I've got these I've got some size 8 ones, and I've got these are 15s, but I also bought some sequins. I got some translucent sequins somewhere as well. They're in here somewhere. There they are. Nope, that's more beads. I grabbed the wrong packet. I was aiming for that one. And I got some translucent ones. I thought all of these, I mean, they don't sparkle as well on camera. Yeah, the 15 and 0s are tiny little buggers. But part of the idea was that I would be able to add them to kind of almost any pattern if I felt the desire. Because, you know, that can be a thing. Let me put these in my box. Apart from my pusher. Hang on. The pusher's over there. Put as many of these in my box as will fit. So technically you two need to stay out. And you won't fit. Everybody else. So there we go. Fits in my box now. That's a good thing. You can go on top. Come on with you. There you go. So yeah, I deliberately wanted infinitely tiny so that they could go with some of the more Bucks Point thread stuff, which is infinitely tiny threads, so that they could be delicate little additions to that. But I also got some bigger ones because, well, why not? Problem is I don't really want to start making a bead collection. Even though, of course, they're pretty. Because, you know, as we've already discussed, collecting things is a hobby in its own right. Hi, I am making a neck curtain. As represented by the grid in the top right hand corner, I have already made 4 squares. This is the 5th square of making, for which I will join them all together. And if you bear with me 1 second, I can grab, there it is. So, let me put down, I would say a dark cloth, but, oh actually I've got the red one, that'll do. Kind of need a darker one, so hang on. Extract it out of its pile. If I put this down, so that you can see more clearly, if I grab you a square, these are the squares that we're making. Let's put it down a bit for you. There you go. So these are the squares that we're making, and we're basically making 18 of these blessed little squares, and we're going to join them all together. So it has... It's not my prettiest thing. I like them, do not get me wrong. Oh, dogs, just sit down. It was me in the tin lid. Get over yourselves. Let me wander slightly. Dogs, shut up, please. Thank you. So the squares are in a style of lace called torchon, which is commonly used by beginners, but it doesn't make it a simple lace. It just means it's more practical for beginners, because it's a bit more logical is the short answer. This is my proper pretty. Now, let me zoom in on that a little bit for you because, well, it is a zoom-inable thing. And let me move up a little bit. Try and get you a better view of it. There you go. I'm not very good at the old steering of cameras. This is a Bucks Point bookmark. So for scale, there's a hand. It is made with smaller threads. Because, well, it's made with smaller threads. But it is a pretty thing. That I enjoy. However, obviously, because it is made with very thin threads, it is not robust, and obviously a neck curtain potentially needs washing. So this is the prettiest thing I've made, in my humble opinion. I really like this. I am not a lace fanatic, oddly enough. And for example, I have no need for bookmarks because I read on a Kindle. But bookmarks at least has a... Often in lace making, they will get you making, say, a strip of lace. That's really great. But what do I do with it? Why would I want it? What, almost from the acting point of view, what is my motivation? Why would I make an inch wide bit of strip of something when I'm not going to attach it to anything? Why would I want to do that? At least with a bookmark, you can use it as a bookmark. And to be honest, I'd rather make a bookmark that, should you really like it, I was going to give this away for Christmas, but I liked it too much, so I didn't. But, you can make a bookmark and you can give it to someone and they can use it. If I made 2 meters of lace, well, I could give it to you, but unless you make something that, unless you do something that you want to put lace on, what would you can't use it for anything. And I have a habit of giving away things that I make. So, I mean, I really like this. This thing is, it's got mistakes in it. It's got plenty of mistakes in it. But I really do like it. I liked how it turned out. I like in some way the delicateness of it, because it really is, a tiny, wafery, light thing. It is, well, frankly, lacy. It is everything that you think of when you come to lace. It's decorative, it's pretty, it's light and fragile, and I mean, the first bookmark I made in Bucks Point is this tiny wafer thin thing next to it here, which I'll move. There you go. This, which again is pretty. Don't get me wrong, and encouraged me to make the slightly bigger one. But again, I mean, this thing's the size of 2 fingers. It's tiny. I mean, it's a bit too small, frankly. But one of the weirdest things about Bucks Point lace is it's stretchy. I'm not going to yank on it too hard. Now, this has my most hated aspect that comes often with lace making, which are known as picots. Now, picots are what these things around the edge are supposed to be, and most of them are not. Okay. First of all, to me, personally, even when they're done right, they look like botched pinholes. They look like you accidentally wrapped your thread round a pin, and when you took the pin out, it looked wrong. Now, most of these are wrong. These ones here are generally much better, but 99% of them are wrong. And it doesn't help that I don't like them, and I don't really want to practice them. And so, to be honest, the big posh one, this one, is supposed to have picots all the way around the edge of it. And I said, no, not adding picots, because I don't like picots, and I'm really glad I didn't. Now, I do appreciate that for some things, picots are great. I just don't like them. I can't explain it. I just don't like them. They just look like wrong pinholes. So, you can, kind of change and not do some things, and you can swap stitches out. You can do an awful lot of things, right? So, even this square that I'm making, which obviously now you can see it is kind of buried under all of here, to be fair. The original square pattern that I had, which I actually bought, this is a variation on it. Now, it's my variation on it, but it was not technically an original thought. I did not design it from scratch. I took another idea, and I wanted to use this stitch and that stitch, and, well, I adjusted it and made it how I wanted it. Which is a perfectly valid thing to do, after all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right, just counting to make sure I haven't screwed it up. So it is one of those weird things, is that there are nearly as many types of lace as there are places that historically made them. Most of them have commonality. Well, they all have a level of commonality in that cross is left over right and twist is right over left. But sometimes, some things are exceptionally similar. Some are, it's almost like dog breeds. Originally, every dog breed was one dog breed, right? And over the years, they've sort of spurned off into different families. And my internet just farted again. Thank you for that, internet. But so some have greater similarities. So, for example, I was looking at, now I can't pronounce this, so please do not judge me for my pronunciation. I call it binche because it's spelled B-I-N-C-H-E, right? I know it's French, and well, I failed French at school, so that's where that's going. But the binche lace making, as I've been watching videos and reading about it, because, well, got to look at all the options to decide which ones you like and which ones you don't. In looking at it, it's exactly the same as Buck's Point. You just do things in a different order. So in Buck's Points, you go cross, twist, twist. In binche, you do twist, twist, cross. Now, you can do cross, twist, twist. They just call it closed. Well, then it's Buck's Point now, isn't it? So it's the same stuff. It's just been named after where they made it. And a lot of lace has that kind of commonality. It's like they all went on a retreat and they all went back with what they remembered. So like the cross, cross, twist and twist, cross, cross, they remembered there were two twists, didn't remember which end was which, so one went with at the beginning and one went with at the end, right? And it's a bit like, say, the American language. American languages took out loads of U's from our words. But of course, back then, it was not necessarily the most highly literate people who went to America with the English language. They could read and write to an extent. So is it then too surprising that when they heard the word colour, they spelt it more phonetically? No, it's not. And so, like all of these things, it's how it's changed over the course, So what became normal back when, Betty came back from her retreat of lace making, what she remembered when she went back to, say, France, was not the same as when they went back to, say, Russia. Now, obviously, they didn't meet up for retreats, but you know what I mean. It's exactly how it feels, is that all of the lace types kind of have similarities and differences. So, for example, grabbing the lace pillow over here, this is the other thing I've got going at the moment. Now, it's pink and it's not very visible on camera because this is not exactly designed for on-stream making. Hence, I use brown paper, although this is brown paper. I had to glue the tracing paper with the pattern to it, so it looks a bit more mangled. And, of course, it's pink, which doesn't show up very well. But this is a style called Flanders, which is Belgium, I think. Don't hold me to that. My geography is not entirely apt. But Flanders, again, is a different style of lace. Now, it is very similar in concept to torchon, except instead of two pairs meeting at every pinhole, with this it's 4. But it's really not that, well, it is different, but it's not different, if you know what I mean. There are many differences, which makes some of it a little bit more frustrating, but at the same time, all it means is there's twice as many bobbins to get nowhere fast. So, not feeling the love for this one quite so much. But it does mean that the difference between the ground stitch and the cloth stitch comes out very dense, whereas on normal torchon, if I used the same gaps, for want of a better word, it would look quite baggy and airy, which is not necessarily a bad look, but of course is a different look. So, like a lot of these things, is one of the other things, of course, you get is a bit like the Eskimos are alleged to have like 40 different words for snow. Like most crafting things, everything has a stupid name. But on top of their stupid name, different versions of different types of lace call the same stitch different things. So, for example, in torsion, you do half stitch, pin, half stitch. And to make rose grounds, you do half stitch, pin, half stitch, and you do lots more pins and half stitching around the corner. For the ground in Flanders, depending on the era you're trying to imitate, you do the kind of this, but without some of the extra pins. So you only have one pin in it, where this makes a hole in the middle is where you'd stick the pin. So it makes it dense and kind of chubby. But you do half stitch, the two bits at the side, you do the two sides, pin, then you do another half stitch under the pin and two bits at the side, and it is everything has similarities, which in some ways makes it a bit confusing when you try and switch between them, because obviously your brain's kind of going, now which one am I doing? Am I doing the thing or I'm not doing the thing? The things. So it does mess with your mind a little bit. Because it is quite logical, everywhere there's a pin prick, two pairs of bobbins meet, and you follow the little instructions on the thing. And this is true with predominantly all lace making, is you have a piece of paper underneath that you follow. And it makes it kind of simple, because unlike knitting and crochet where tension is an issue in lace making, because you shouldn't leave, baggy threads. But other than that, it will come out the size, because, well, it will come out the size because you pin it to it. So there is none of this, I don't know if it's going to be the right size. Well, it will be. If you pin prick, if the pattern underneath is the right size, it will come out that size. So from that point of view, nice and simple. Now, I've got to the end of that one, so time to put some of you back in your places. So it is a practical craft from that point of view. But of course, unlike knitting and crochet and weaving and all the other things that I do, lace making is never a requirement. You never require lace. Want, maybe, but unlike tea towels, blankets, clothes, you need those. You don't need to put lace on them. Now, for a wedding dress, you might argue you need lace on that because, you need to look, you want to look pretty and frilly and all things. But as a whole, come the zombie apocalypse, lace making is not exactly up there on the required skill list, which is why I do many other things. This is very much a I enjoy the process thing. And that's very true. It is very much I enjoy making it. Part of the reason I'm making a net curtain is because I have no need for lace myself. And the only thing I don't even want coasters or a tablecloth, because originally the square that I designed this from was part of a set of squares for becoming a tablecloth. Now, I'm all up for that, except I don't have a table I need a cloth for, and I certainly don't have visitors that would ever need to come and see it. So something that I would use was going to be a net curtain. So net curtain is what I'm making. I hope that helps. Giving you a fair bit of information around what I'm doing and other things and things along with it. Probably a little bit too much and bored the crap out of you, which is also a distinct possibility. I need to push some more pins down. It's my poking device. Now, normally, you would not leave all your pins in like this. But due to some previous issues with triangles and some of the stitches pulling and causing ruptions, we are choosing on this occasion to leave the pins in to see if it resolves the problems that we had, which I think it almost, well, pretty much it has to. So it just means that come the time we want to take it off, it's going to be 300 nightmares to remove all the billion pins, because of course there are all the pins under here as well. So this is all pinned under here. Every pin is in it. I can't remember if it's 1,000 and something pins in a triangle or 1,000 and something pins in a square. Part of me says it's the triangle. But needless to say, a lot of pins. And they're all pushed down. So it's going to take quite a while to pick them out of there. Anyway, I think I'm done for the evening, to be honest. I haven't achieved as much as I'd have liked, but I have done more than I feared. Always a good place to start. So let me take a picture of that, because, well, we want that for tomorrow. Like that. So thank you everyone for coming. With any luck, we shall be back tomorrow, and because it's Thursday tomorrow, isn't it? I need to push my thing back because you're in the way now. Put my light back where it came from, so I can put my table back where it came from. There we go. So yes, hopefully I will be back tomorrow. I try not to take too many days off, but yesterday really was The Walking Dead. So today, despite migraine, I came anyway. Tomorrow is Thursday. I hope to do a nice little evening soiree with you with a bit of lace making. And then on our usual Friday afternoon slot, which is the only day I do guarantee to do lace making, I shall be here from 2 o'clock. Oops, press the button. Which is 9 hours ago. Yeah. So, hopefully I shall see you again here soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.